Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What if some of the greatest heartbreaks of your life were never punishments, but protection? What if the person who walked away, the proposal that never happened, the relationship that suddenly ended, and the door that refused to open, were all removed by Allah for one reason? Because the person He chose for you was still ahead. Think about this for a moment. How many nights have you spent wondering why certain things never worked out? How many times have you asked Allah, why did this happen? Why was I forced to wait? Why does my story feel so different from everyone else's? But what if Allah was not delaying your happiness? What if He was protecting it? Because when Allah chooses someone for you, something extraordinary happens. Long before you meet them, Allah begins preparing your heart. Long before you hear their name, Allah begins removing what does not belong in your life. Long before your paths cross, Allah begins connecting your stories in the unseen. And sometimes, the greatest sign that Allah has chosen someone for you is not who enters your life, it is who Allah removes from it. Tonight we are going to uncover 5 powerful things that often happen when Allah has truly chosen someone for you. And by the end of this reminder, you may realize that Allah has been guiding your story all along, even when you thought nothing was happening. 1. Allah prepares your heart before He sends the person He chose for you. One of the greatest signs that Allah has chosen someone for you is that He begins working on your heart long before that person ever enters your life. Most people spend their time looking for signs around them. They look for messages, they wait for opportunities, they search for clues in conversations. They wonder if a certain person is the one. But Allah often begins His work somewhere much deeper, inside your heart, because before Allah changes your situation, He often changes you. Think about who you were a few years ago. Your priorities were different. Your understanding of life was different. Your relationship with Allah was different. The things that once seemed important may no longer feel important today. The attention you once chased may no longer excite you. The people you once thought you could never live without may no longer occupy your heart the way they once did. The dreams you once had may have changed completely. You have changed, and perhaps the most beautiful part is that much of that change happened without you even noticing. Allah was quietly shaping your heart. While you were worrying about your future, Allah was preparing you for it. While you were asking when your person would arrive, Allah was teaching you lessons you would need before meeting them. Because a righteous spouse is not simply a reward, it is a trust from Allah, and every trust requires preparation. Many people ask Allah for a beautiful marriage, but very few ask themselves whether they are ready for one. Marriage is not built only on love. Love is important, but love alone is not enough. A lasting marriage requires patience when emotions are difficult. It requires forgiveness when mistakes happen. It requires wisdom during disagreements. It requires self-control during moments of anger. It requires faith when life becomes challenging. How can someone protect a marriage if they have not learned patience? How can someone appreciate a righteous spouse if they are still attached to unhealthy relationships? How can someone build peace with another person if they have not found peace with Allah? This is why Allah often spends months, and sometimes years, preparing the heart before opening the door. And that preparation does not always feel pleasant. Sometimes it feels lonely. Sometimes it feels confusing. Sometimes it feels like nothing is happening at all. You watch other people getting married. You watch others moving forward. You wonder why your own story seems delayed. But what you cannot see is that Allah is working in the unseen. He is removing pride. He is increasing wisdom. He is teaching patience. He is strengthening trust. He is helping you depend on Him instead of depending on people. He is teaching you that your happiness does not come from another human being. It comes from Him first. Because when Allah becomes the center of your heart, you become ready to love someone in a healthier way, not out of desperation, not out of loneliness, not because you need someone to complete you, but because you are ready to share a life built upon faith. Sometimes Allah allows disappointments because they teach lessons success never could. Sometimes He allows heartbreak because it softens the heart. Sometimes He allows delays because the person you will become through waiting is more valuable than the thing you are waiting for. And perhaps right now, while you feel forgotten, Allah is doing some of His greatest work inside you. Perhaps He is preparing you for a blessing that requires a stronger heart, a wiser mind, a deeper faith, a more mature character, and one day when the right person finally arrives, many things will suddenly make sense. The delays will make sense. The closed doors will make sense. The disappointments will make sense. The waiting will make sense, because you will realize that Allah was never withholding a blessing from you. He was preparing you for it. Allah was not only preparing the person He chose for you, He was preparing you to become the person they would need as well. And that preparation may be one of the greatest acts of love Allah has ever shown you. Allah removes whoever would have stood between you and your destiny. There are people you once believed would be part of your future, people whose names lived in your thoughts, people you prayed for, people you imagined building a life with. At one point you felt certain they would stay. You thought the story was moving in the right direction. You thought the door was opening. You thought Allah was leading you toward them. Then suddenly everything changed. The conversation stopped. The plans disappeared. The connection faded. The door closed. And perhaps what hurt the most was not losing the person. It was losing the future you had imagined with them. Because sometimes the hardest heartbreak is not the loss itself. It is the loss of what you hoped would happen. Many people spend years asking the same question. Why did Allah allow me to become attached if it was never meant to happen? Why did Allah let me care so deeply? Why did Allah not simply remove those feelings earlier? But what if the story was never about that person? What if the story was about what Allah wanted to teach you through them? Because not every person enters your life to stay. Some people enter your life to teach. Some enter your life to reveal weaknesses you need to heal. Some enter your life to bring you closer to Allah. And some enter your life simply to show you what is not meant for you. Human beings often see relationships through emotion. Allah sees them through wisdom. We see the present. Allah sees the future. We see attraction. Allah sees compatibility. We see potential. Allah sees reality. We see what makes us happy today. Allah sees what will protect our hearts tomorrow. There are things Allah knows about people that we could never know. He knows what their character will become years from now. He knows the pain they may cause. He knows the paths they will choose. He knows the hidden things inside hearts that no human eye can see. And because Allah sees what we cannot see, He sometimes closes doors that we desperately wanted to walk through, not because He wants to hurt us, but because He wants to protect us. Imagine standing before a door that looks beautiful from the outside. The colors are beautiful, the design is beautiful, everything about it seems perfect. You beg Allah to open it, you cry over it, you pray over it, you cannot stop thinking about it. But Allah can see what is behind that door. He can see the disappointment, the pain, the regret, the tears, the damage, the lessons you are not meant to experience. So He keeps the door closed. At first you think Allah is denying you. Later, you realize He was protecting you. One of the greatest acts of Allah's mercy is not always giving you what you ask for. Sometimes it is preventing you from receiving it. Many people eventually reach a moment where they look back at someone they once cried over and think, Alhamdulillah, not because the pain was enjoyable, not because the heartbreak was easy, but because they finally understand what Allah saved them from. The person they once begged for was never capable of giving them the peace they were seeking. The relationship they once wanted would have taken them further from Allah. The future they imagined was not as beautiful as they believed, and suddenly everything makes sense. The unanswered dua, the delay, the disappointment, the closed door, the silence, it all begins to make sense. Because Allah was not removing a blessing, He was removing an obstacle. He was clearing a path. He was protecting your future. And perhaps even now there are things Allah is removing from your life that you do not understand. People, attachments, expectations, dreams, plans. You may be grieving what is leaving, but Allah may be preparing what is coming. Remember this, the gardener cuts branches not because he hates the tree, he cuts them so the tree can grow stronger. In the same way, Allah sometimes removes people from our lives, not because He wants us to suffer, but because He wants us to grow, because He wants us to heal, because He wants to make room for something better. And often the greatest blessings arrive only after the wrong people leave. This is why believers trust Allah even when they do not understand His decisions, because Allah has never made a mistake, not once. Every person who stayed served a purpose. Every person who left served a purpose. Every closed door served a purpose. Every disappointment served a purpose. And every removal carried wisdom, even when the wisdom remained hidden for years. So if someone left your life and your heart still hurts, remember this: if Allah removed them, He did not remove them without reason. The one who knows the future made that decision. The one who loves you more than anyone else made that decision. The one who sees what you cannot see made that decision. And perhaps one day, when Allah finally reveals the beauty of His plan, you will realize that losing that person was not the tragedy you thought it was. It was one of the greatest protections Allah ever gave you, because sometimes Allah removes who you wanted to make room for who He chose. 3. Your heart begins craving peace more than love itself. One of the most beautiful signs that Allah is preparing you for the person He has chosen is that your heart slowly changes what it values. At first, most people search for love. They search for excitement. They search for attention. They search for someone who makes them feel special. And there is nothing unusual about that. Human beings were created with hearts that desire connection. We all want to be loved. We all want companionship. We all want someone who understands us. But as Allah guides a person closer to Him, something remarkable begins to happen. The heart starts maturing. The heart starts seeing life differently. The things that once looked important no longer seem as valuable. The things that once impressed you no longer impress you. The things that once controlled your emotions begin losing their power, and without even realizing it, your heart starts craving something deeper than love. It starts craving peace, because after enough disappointments, enough lessons, and enough life experience, most people discover a powerful truth. A person can make your heart race and still destroy your peace. A person can make you feel excited and still lead you towards sadness. A person can say all the right words and still be completely wrong for you. This is why Allah often allows us to experience certain lessons before bringing the right person, because He wants us to understand the difference between attraction and peace. Attraction can happen in a moment. Peace is built through character. Attraction can be based on appearance. Peace is built on trust. Attraction can disappear quickly. Peace grows stronger with time. Many people spend years chasing feelings, but eventually they realize that feelings alone cannot carry a relationship. When life becomes difficult, feelings are tested. When hardships arrive, feelings are tested. When misunderstandings happen, feelings are tested. And that is when character becomes more important than chemistry. That is when patience becomes more important than passion. That is when faith becomes more important than emotions. Perhaps this is why some of the people you once wanted are no longer the people you pray for today, because Allah changed your understanding. Years ago, you may have asked Allah for someone attractive. Today, you ask Allah for someone sincere. Years ago, you may have asked Allah for someone exciting. Today, you ask Allah for someone trustworthy. Years ago, you may have wanted someone who would make you happy. Today, you ask Allah for someone who will help you reach Jannah. That shift is not small. That shift is evidence that Allah is preparing your heart. Because the closer a person gets to Allah, the more they begin valuing what Allah values. They stop looking only at appearances. They begin looking at character. They stop focusing only on emotions. They begin focusing on faith. They stop asking, "Do they make me feel good?" and start asking, "Will they help me become better?" That question changes everything, because a righteous spouse is not simply someone who makes life enjoyable. A righteous spouse helps you carry life's burdens. They remind you of Allah when you forget. They encourage you when you feel weak. They support you during difficult times. They bring stability when the world feels uncertain. And perhaps the greatest gift they bring is peace. Not perfect peace, not a life without problems, but the kind of peace that comes from knowing you are walking beside someone who fears Allah, someone who respects you, someone who values honesty, someone who wants goodness for you in this life and the next. The world often teaches people to follow their hearts, but Islam teaches us something more beautiful. Guide your heart toward Allah first, because when the heart is guided by Allah, it begins wanting what is truly good for it. And that is exactly what happens when Allah is preparing you for the person He has chosen. Your desires become wiser, your expectations become healthier, your standards become stronger, and your heart slowly realizes that the greatest relationship is not the one that creates the most excitement. It is the one that brings the most peace, because excitement may last for a season, but peace is what carries two people through an entire lifetime. And when Allah has truly chosen someone for you, one of the clearest signs is that He teaches your heart to recognize the value of peace before that person ever arrives. So when they finally enter your life, you do not simply choose them because they make your heart race. You choose them because their presence helps your heart rest. And there is a special kind of beauty in that. The beauty of knowing that what Allah chose for you does not only touch your emotions, it brings tranquility to your soul. 4. The longer the wait, the greater the lesson Allah is teaching you. Perhaps one of the most difficult experiences a human heart can endure is waiting, not knowing when, not knowing how, not knowing who, not knowing whether the thing you keep praying for is near or still far away. Waiting has a way of testing every part of a person. It tests patience, it tests trust, it tests faith, it tests hope. And sometimes it feels as if Allah is asking you to walk through a fog where you cannot see what is ahead. You make dua. Days pass, nothing changes. You make dua again. Weeks pass, nothing changes. You continue asking Allah. Months pass, sometimes years pass. And if we are honest, there are moments when the heart becomes tired, moments when you wonder if your prayers are being heard, moments when you question whether your time will ever come, moments when you watch other people receiving the very thing you have been begging Allah for. You see engagements, you see weddings, you see happy announcements, you see people moving into the next chapter of their lives. Meanwhile, your own story seems frozen. Your own chapter seems unfinished. Your own prayer seems unanswered. And that comparison can be painful, very painful, because human beings naturally wonder why something is happening for everyone else, but not for them. But this is where many people misunderstand the wisdom of Allah. We often think waiting means Allah is withholding something from us. But what if Allah is actually building something inside us? What if the delay itself is part of the gift? Think about how Allah created the world. Many of Allah's greatest creations develop slowly. A mighty tree begins as a tiny seed. A newborn child develops slowly before entering the world. Even the most beautiful gardens require time before they bloom. Growth takes time. Preparation takes time. And sometimes the most valuable blessings require the longest preparation. Imagine receiving something before you are ready for it. Imagine being given a responsibility you cannot carry. Imagine receiving a blessing that your current level of patience, wisdom, or faith cannot sustain. Would that really be a blessing, or would it become another test? Allah knows exactly when your heart is ready. Allah knows exactly when the timing is right. Allah knows exactly when certain doors should open. And Allah knows things about your future that you cannot possibly know. Perhaps there are events that still need to happen. Perhaps there are lessons you still need to learn. Perhaps there are wounds that still need healing. Perhaps the person written for you is also going through their own preparation. Perhaps Allah is teaching both of you lessons separately before bringing you together, because Allah's plans are never rushed. Allah does not operate according to our timelines. Allah operates according to perfect wisdom, and perfect wisdom often requires patience. One of the most beautiful realities about waiting is that it reveals what truly lives inside the heart. Anyone can trust Allah when everything is easy. Anyone can have faith when every dua is answered immediately. But real trust appears when the answer is delayed. Real faith appears when you continue making dua after months of silence. Real tawakkul appears when you keep believing despite not seeing results. That is when your relationship with Allah deepens. That is when your faith becomes real. That is when your heart learns to depend on Allah rather than circumstances. Sometimes Allah delays a blessing because He wants you to become closer to Him than you have ever been before. Think about how many people only discover the beauty of tahajjud because they are waiting for something. Think about how many people become consistent in dua because they are waiting for something. Think about how many people return to Allah sincerely because they are waiting for something. The waiting itself becomes a bridge that brings them closer to their Lord. And perhaps that closeness is more valuable than the thing they are waiting for. Because the greatest gift is not marriage. The greatest gift is Allah. The greatest gift is not finding the right person. The greatest gift is finding greater trust in the one who created that person. And this is why many believers eventually look back and say something surprising. They say the waiting was actually one of the most beautiful parts of the journey. Not because it was easy, not because it did not hurt, but because it transformed them. It taught them patience they never knew they possessed. It taught them trust they never knew they could develop. It taught them reliance upon Allah in ways comfort never could. And when the blessing finally arrived, they were no longer the same person who started the journey. They were stronger, wiser, closer to Allah, more grateful, more mature, more prepared. Suddenly the delay made sense. The unanswered prayers made sense. The confusion made sense. The waiting made sense. Because they realized Allah was never ignoring them. Allah was never forgetting them. Allah was never withholding goodness from them. He was preparing them for it. And perhaps that is exactly what Allah is doing in your life right now. While you worry about the future, Allah is arranging it. While you wonder when your prayer will be answered, Allah is writing the perfect timing. While you fear that nothing is happening, Allah is working in ways you cannot see. So do not let the delay convince you that Allah has forgotten you. Do not let the waiting make you lose hope. Do not let the silence make you doubt His plan. Because some of Allah's greatest blessings arrive after the longest periods of waiting. And often, when they finally arrive, you discover that every day of patience was worth it, not only because of what Allah gave you, but because of who Allah helped you become while you were waiting. 5. The person written for you will bring you closer to Allah than ever before. Perhaps the greatest misunderstanding about love today is that people think the purpose of a relationship is simply happiness. People search for someone who makes them smile, someone who excites them, someone who makes them feel understood, someone who makes life easier. And while those things are beautiful, they are not the deepest purpose of a relationship in Islam, because Islam teaches something much greater. The person Allah has written for you is not simply meant to share your life. They are meant to help guide your journey to Allah. Many people ask Allah for someone who will love them, but perhaps a better question is this: what kind of person will help you become closer to your Creator? Because beauty changes, circumstances change, emotions change, life changes, but faith is what carries two people through every season. When Allah chooses someone for you, their presence in your life begins creating positive change, not because they are perfect. No human being is perfect, but because their influence pushes you toward goodness. You begin caring more about your prayers. You become more mindful of your actions. You become more aware of Allah. You become more conscious of the life you are building. A righteous person has a unique effect on the people around them. Their character inspires without speaking. Their sincerity teaches lessons without giving lectures. Their relationship with Allah reminds others of what truly matters. And this is one of the most beautiful signs of a person who is good for your future. They do not make you forget Allah. They make you remember Him more. Sadly, many relationships today move in the opposite direction. People become so attached to one another that they slowly become distant from Allah. They begin depending on people more than they depend on their Lord. They begin seeking comfort from creation while neglecting the Creator. They begin making another person the center of their life. And eventually, that kind of attachment often leads to disappointment, because no human being was created to carry the place in your heart that belongs to Allah alone. Only Allah can provide complete peace. Only Allah can provide complete security. Only Allah can fill every emptiness inside the heart. The right person understands this. The right person never tries to replace Allah in your life. Instead, they help strengthen your connection with Him. They remind you to make dua. They encourage you when your faith feels weak. They support you during difficult tests. They help you stay focused on what truly matters. When you fall, they help you stand again. When you become discouraged, they remind you of Allah's mercy. When life becomes difficult, they help you keep your trust in Allah. And this is why a righteous spouse is one of the greatest blessings a believer can receive. Not because they make life perfect, but because they help make the journey easier. Think about the challenges every human being faces: stress, loss, fear, financial struggles, health problems, uncertainty about the future. No one escapes these tests. But imagine facing those challenges beside someone who reminds you to trust Allah, someone who reminds you that every hardship has wisdom, someone who reminds you that Allah is always in control, someone who reminds you to pray before you panic, someone who reminds you to have patience before you give up. That kind of companionship is priceless, because life is not only about finding someone to enjoy the good days with. Life is about finding someone who helps you stay close to Allah during the difficult days. The person written for you will not necessarily be the richest person. They may not be the most attractive person. They may not be the most popular person, but they will possess qualities that become more valuable with time: faith, character, loyalty, kindness, mercy, patience, integrity. These qualities become increasingly important as life unfolds, because attraction may bring two people together, but character is what keeps them together. And character rooted in faith becomes one of the strongest foundations any relationship can have. This is why many successful marriages are not built on perfect circumstances. They are built on two imperfect people who continue turning back to Allah together. Two people who continue learning together, growing together, praying together, supporting one another through every season of life. And perhaps that is one of the most beautiful parts of Allah's plan. The person He chooses for you does not simply change your future. They help change your relationship with Allah. They help you become a better believer, a better husband, a better wife, a better servant of Allah. And years later, when you look back at your journey, you realize something incredible. The greatest gift was never the relationship itself. The greatest gift was how that relationship brought you closer to Allah. Because every blessing in this world is temporary, but a relationship that helps you reach Jannah carries benefits that last forever. So if you are waiting for the person Allah has written for you, do not only ask Allah for someone who loves you. Ask Allah for someone who strengthens your faith. Ask Allah for someone who increases your gratitude. Ask Allah for someone who encourages righteousness. Ask Allah for someone who helps you become the person Allah created you to be. Because when Allah truly chooses someone for you, their greatest impact will not be on your emotions. Their greatest impact will be on your soul. And that may be the most beautiful sign of all. The person written for you does not simply walk beside you through this life. They help guide you toward Jannah. 5. When Allah has chosen someone for you, He quietly begins connecting your stories in the unseen. One of the most beautiful realities about Allah's plan is that it often begins long before you can see it. Human beings only see moments. Allah sees the entire story. We see today, Allah sees 10 years from now. We see a single chapter. Allah sees the entire book. This is why many people assume that their love story begins when they finally meet the right person, when they exchange names, when they have their first conversation, when they see each other for the first time. But Allah's plan often begins long before any of those moments happen, long before the meeting, long before the introduction, long before either person knows the other exists. Allah begins preparing two separate lives for one future destination. Think about that for a moment. Right now, there are people all over the world living their lives, going to work, studying, making dua, facing challenges, learning lessons, growing through hardships. And among all those people, there may be someone Allah has already written for you, someone who currently has no idea who you are, someone who has never heard your name, someone who has never seen your face. Yet Allah already knows the exact day your paths will cross, the exact moment your stories will connect, the exact circumstances that will bring you together. Nothing is random with Allah. Nothing is accidental. Nothing is overlooked. The meeting may look ordinary to you, but it was written long before it happened. This is why believers find comfort in Allah's decree, because what Allah writes never gets lost. The person written for you cannot accidentally miss you. The person written for you cannot be stolen from you. The person written for you cannot be taken away by someone else's success. What Allah has written remains written, and this truth brings a special kind of peace to the heart. Many people live with fear. They fear they are falling behind. They fear they missed their chance. They fear someone else will take what was meant for them. They fear they waited too long. They fear they made too many mistakes. But Allah's plan is greater than human mistakes, greater than delays, greater than distance, greater than obstacles. What Allah has decreed does not depend on perfect circumstances. It depends on His command. And when Allah says something is meant to happen, no force on earth can stop it. Perhaps this is why some events in your life make no sense at first. A job opportunity that unexpectedly appeared, a move to a different city, a friendship that suddenly entered your life, a challenge that forced you to change direction, a disappointment that pushed you onto a different path. At the time, you may have thought these events were random, but years later you realize they were all connected. They were all leading somewhere. They were all pieces of a larger plan, because Allah is the greatest planner. He moves events into place with perfect wisdom. He arranges meetings. He creates opportunities. He opens doors. He closes doors. He redirects journeys. And He does it all at exactly the right time. Many people become frustrated because they want answers now. They want certainty now. They want the full picture now. But if Allah showed us the entire story, there would be no need for trust. There would be no need for faith. Part of the beauty of life is learning to trust Allah before you understand Him, trusting His wisdom before you see the results, trusting His plan before the outcome becomes clear. And perhaps that is exactly where some of you are today. You cannot see what Allah is doing. You cannot understand why certain things happened. You cannot understand why certain people left. You cannot understand why certain doors closed. But what if those events are quietly leading you towards something better? What if Allah is arranging details you cannot yet see? What if the delay itself is positioning you for the right moment? Because sometimes Allah is working most powerfully when everything appears silent. A seed grows beneath the soil long before anyone sees the tree. The sun begins rising before its light reaches the earth. And Allah often begins preparing blessings before we recognize their arrival. Perhaps while you are worrying about your future spouse, Allah is teaching them lessons they need to learn. Perhaps while you are making dua for them, they are making dua for you. Perhaps while you are wondering where they are, Allah is guiding both of your lives toward the exact meeting He has already written. That thought alone should bring peace to the heart, because it reminds us that we are never forgotten. Allah has not lost track of your story. Allah has not forgotten your tears. Allah has not ignored your prayers. Allah knows exactly where you are, and He knows exactly where the person written for you is as well. The distance between two people means nothing to Allah. Time means nothing to Allah. Obstacles mean nothing to Allah. When Allah decides that the time has come, He can bring two lives together in ways neither person could have imagined. And when that moment finally arrives, you may look back over all the years of confusion and realize something beautiful. The delays had purpose. The heartbreak had purpose. The waiting had purpose. The unanswered questions had purpose. Every step was leading somewhere. Every lesson was preparing something. Every chapter was part of a larger story being written by the Most Wise. And perhaps the greatest comfort of all is this: you do not need to force what Allah has already written. You do not need to chase what Allah has already planned. You do not need to fear losing what Allah has already decreed. Your responsibility is not to control the story. Your responsibility is to trust the author. Because when Allah has truly chosen someone for you, He begins connecting your stories long before either of you can see it. And no matter how long the journey feels, what Allah has written will arrive exactly when it is meant to. Not a moment too early, not a moment too late. Exactly when His perfect wisdom knows you are ready. My dear brother, my dear sister, if there is one thing I hope you take away from this reminder, it is this: Allah does not write meaningless stories. Every delay has wisdom. Every closed door has wisdom. Every heartbreak has wisdom. Every season of waiting has wisdom. Even the chapters you wish never happened may one day become the very chapters you thank Allah for the most. Right now, you may not understand what Allah is doing. You may not understand why certain people left, why certain prayers seem delayed, why certain dreams have not yet become reality. But remember this: Allah sees the entire picture while you only see one page. The one who created your heart knows exactly what it needs. The one who hears your silent tears knows exactly what you are waiting for. The one who placed this desire inside your heart is fully aware of every prayer you have whispered in the darkness. So do not lose hope. Do not let loneliness convince you that you have been forgotten. Do not let delay convince you that Allah has said no. And do not let fear convince you that your story will never change. Because Allah specializes in changing stories. He can open a door in a single day that seemed impossible for years. He can answer a dua in a way you never expected. He can bring peace after heartbreak. He can bring certainty after confusion. He can bring joy after years of waiting. And He can bring the right person into your life at the exact moment His wisdom decides the time is right. Until then, keep making dua. Keep improving yourself. Keep protecting your heart. Keep trusting Allah. Keep walking toward Him even when the path feels uncertain. Because every step you take toward Allah is never wasted. And perhaps, at this very moment, while you are wondering where your future is, Allah is already arranging it. While you are praying for the person written for you, Allah is preparing both of your hearts. While you are waiting for the next chapter, Allah is writing it with perfect wisdom. So place your trust in Him. The author of your story has never made a mistake, and He never will. If this reminder touched your heart, write, "Ya Allah, I trust your timing," in the comments below. And if you would like more reminders that strengthen your faith, bring peace to your heart, and help you trust Allah through every season of life, make sure you subscribe to Deenpedia and join our growing family. May Allah fill your heart with peace, strengthen your trust in Him, protect you from what is not written for you, and bless you with a righteous spouse who brings you closer to Allah and closer to Jannah. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.